Whoa, what the fuck, dude? You're supposed to be giving hope, not destroying all of it. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Patience, damn you, son. They were concerned that the slaves and servants who outnumbered the elites would work together. Seize the means of production! What if instead of fight them, we just make them irrelevant? We need a unified vision of the future, not based on mindless submission to oppression, but on individual sovereignty, an optimistic hope, creativity, and a passion for engineering that works with nature. If we leave our future to be designed by those in power, they will do it in a way that benefits them. I believe we are potentially on the cusp of a new renaissance, but only if we can envision it. Imagine fresh food from your own backyard, little or no pesticides or fertilizers, and nutrients restored to pre-industrial levels. Everyone living in a self-sustaining home, solar-powered, filtered rainwater, and their own robot or two tending a permaculture garden. Possibilities with these systems is astronomical. Those in power aren't exactly excited by the idea that at any moment the people could possibly make all their power and wealth irrelevant. We are going to have to start doing on a local level what our damn government is supposed to be doing, but isn't. Oh, there'd also be less waste. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. Today I want to talk about hope. Something that I think goes without saying is in short supply these days, and rightfully so. But I want to take a shot at providing some nonetheless because I think there are angles people are not considering. Though initially it may not seem so, please hear me out. It is understandable to be hopeless, defeatist, or black-pilled when it seems like no matter which party we vote for, we're never given what is promised. And it never seems like they work for us. When the money printing is so rampant and rabid that we may as well be getting robbed for the cash in our pocket given the value it is losing, when our hard-earned taxes are being given to our allies, spent on proxy wars, and generally to the military-industrial complex, while many of our city dwellers drink water supplemented with lead and other toxins on a daily basis, which by the way would cost a fraction of one foreign aid or war payment to fix a dozen major cities. When our children are allowed to be preyed upon by the elite class from around the world with impunity, are we not slaves at that point? And now it seems we are under siege in our own country. With all this treachery afoot, where is there room for hope? Oh yeah, and if that weren't enough, I almost forgot that AI is looming in the background waiting to spring an unsolicited existential crisis on all of humanity. Many feel our government is too far gone, that there's no voting our way out of this mess. I'm inclined to agree with this. However, while many understandably hear that and their first thought is that means revolution is necessary, and usually revolution has a violent connotation, I actually see a different path. After all, does it really make sense to fight those in power just to have them replaced by another equally unscrupulous tyrant, which, let's be honest, that is how many revolutions go. The leader of the rebels becomes a dictator, just like in some banana republic. What if instead of fight them, we just slowly, quietly make them irrelevant? Our currency is fiat. For those who don't know what that means, it means it's fake, basically. It's monopoly money. It's not backed by anything. It used to be on a gold standard where there was an exchange rate where each dollar was worth a fixed amount of gold. Since the mid-70s, when we went off the gold standard, there's nothing to back the dollar. It is basically an IOU. There are theories, by the way, that this was done because the military-industrial complex couldn't engage in its hegemony without the ability to print money wildly. I think this is a pretty solid theory. I mean, we've had war without end for decades, unnecessarily, at least since World War II anyway, and it just happens to seem to be the priority of every administration we elect, and of course if the theory holds true, then the inflation would be tied to the wars and would be skyrocketing along with the endless wars. Well, it has, hasn't it? So where am I going with all this? The fakeness of the currency can actually be a source of hope rather than despair. See, the fiat currency kind of worked, and probably would have continued to if it weren't for all the printing for the war machine. This is because it can be seen as backed by labor and ingenuity. The effort, basically the sweat equity, our ability to do work, does not change regardless of the value of the currency. The factories are all there, the workers are all there. It seems like the real problem is on paper, well, on hard drives these days anyway. At first glance, this probably sounds like I'm about to go into a pitch for communism. Seize the means of production! But not exactly. Communism hasn't exactly worked, though I do question if it has actually been allowed without interference by outside forces. But regardless, it suffers from the same problem as capitalism, which is corruption. See, the issue is not the system. Both capitalism and communism can work. It's the corruption that ruins it. Neither will work if the government isn't honest. But you're asking a system that attracts the most power-hungry and psychopathic to be honest. Do we see how stupid that is yet? Governments are doomed to fail by the very nature of the type who are drawn to run it when you think about it. Whoa, what the fuck, dude? You're supposed to be giving hope, not destroying all of it. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Patience, damn you, son. Back to fighting the government. Or rather not. So how do we make the tyrants irrelevant? See, the problem is, many people on either end of the political spectrum tend to see the government as the solution to problems. However, how well has that worked for us though? And no, while I have libertarian tendencies, I am not going to say we need to abolish the government. But what I will say is that we try to have the government do too much. Rather than empowering ourselves, there are too many laws and regulations to do anything efficiently anymore. And by the way, the regulations get made to benefit and protect corporations rather than what we actually do need them for. And the corruption is out of hand, so we need to start making the government and the corporations it is infested with irrelevant. I propose the way we do this is to seize the means of production on a personal level rather than trying to have the government do it. Remember that AI problem I said was looming? That ties into this as well. As most of you know, it's already starting to take jobs away and will do so more as it gets more effective. But what if that was irrelevant as well? I propose that we start to take matters into our own hands, quite literally. Whether AI gives us a utopia where we have abundance and don't have to work, or a dystopia where we don't have abundance and can't work, there is value in the ability to work with our hands. In a utopia where you don't have to work no longer serves as your source of meaning, as it does for many. So we will need hobbies and pastimes to do that. I don't think this lack of meaning thing will be as big a threat as many claim for this reason. If we have abundance and can do sports and hobbies and pastimes that we love, why would we be upset by that? In a dystopian scenario, well, we all know, especially you fellow gamers, how useful crafting is in the apocalypse. I also don't only mean literally taking matters into our hands. I know I did say literally though. But I recommend seeking knowledge on creation of many things, tangible and otherwise, because just because AI can create something better than us doesn't mean we don't want to or need to do it. For example, it demolishes us at chess, but this will never stop our enjoyment of competing with each other in chess. So don't give up on your virtual efforts either, animation, games, 3D modeling, etc., because what we don't want is to end up like Idiocracy, where the AI does so much for us and we use our minds so little that we lose our cognitive abilities and end up helpless, infantile, feral creatures under the care of AI. I would also like to state that the more AI does, the more a human touch will be valued. If you can't find a job as a 3D modeler or animator, then start your own series on YouTube, or make your own game and get a following. There are likely to be people who appreciate your style and will be interested in supporting you. Wouldn't that be better than working for someone else anyway? In a world where everything is made by machines and AI, don't you think that things made with a human touch will become more valuable? Also, there is another angle I want to come at this from. Let's take handcrafting, for example. There are many time frames to consider these skills, but let's step back from the AI doom and gloom back to the present for a moment. Consider this example. If times are hard financially and morale is low, let's say you work a lot and you can't afford many hobbies, but you need a shelf. Prices are high because of inflation, so buying a shelf may be difficult. So do you save up and buy the shelf? I would argue there's a better option. Instead, buy the tools that let you build the shelf for a fraction of what the shelf would cost. Be creative about how and where you acquire the materials, either upcycling or use secondhand scrap possibly. You'll probably be able to build the shelf for the same or less than the shelf would have cost from the store, but it isn't the same outcome, is it? With one move, one small shift in perspective, you've acquired a shelf provided yourself entertainment via hobby in building it, educated yourself in use of the tools and construction, invested in a tool that can now be used to build future items and save money and possibly make money, and you have satisfaction every time you look at the shelf knowing that you created it yourself. Now, of course, hopefully it isn't so crappy that it just reminds you how much you suck at making shelves. And also, you have improved satisfaction and morale. See how one little mindset shift for nearly the same cost, but focusing the energy differently, you're able to solve a whole host of problems with one action. This is the difference between a creator mindset and a consumer mindset, the agent and the slave. Now, you may argue that you spent time and the cost of the tools and material, but ask yourself, how much time do you spend on your phone on social media, doom scrolling? We need less of that anyway, don't we? It's a tool of control that helps us get into this helpless consumer mindset so many are in the first place. So consider that an improvement as well, that you're spending your time doing something productive and wholesome. In a way too, if you're doing upcycling, this kind of leverages the amount of equity we have in all the material stuff we've already produced, which is a lot. Look at how much we all have that we can't get rid of at garage sales and secondhand stores. Why do you think there are so many secondhand stores these days? But if it were repurposed, less of it ends up in landfills and the ocean. It's kind of funny when you think about it. The Amish were probably right this whole time. Well, aside from the crazy sky daddy stuff. But they'll probably skate right through most of these crises without hardly even noticing. Another example, let's say you're not savvy at building, so let's switch it up a bit. Maybe you're of a more culinary or alchemical vibe. Many people have an energy drink addiction. Have you guys ever done the math on that? If you drink 1 to 3 energy drinks a day for, let's say, $2.50 to $4 a piece, from best to worst case scenario, you're spending between $75 and $360 per month. Not only are there the financial consequences of that, but also how healthy are the ingredients? The dyes, the plastic lining in the can leaching chemicals, sugar or artificial sweetener, and who knows the quality of the ingredients in general. Have you ever considered going a month without energy drinks and instead buying yourself a carbonation machine for $100 instead? You could make your own energy drinks. They would be in glass bottles, so less chemicals, and you could design your own flavors with infinite possibilities, and your energy drinks thereafter would cost very little to make. Who knows, you might even stumble upon a winning flavor and be able to start a profitable company making your own drinks. And there'd also be less waste. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. Of course, I'm not saying we're going to build shelves or make drinks our way out of a shitty country, but what I'm getting at is there are so many ways we can empower ourselves to create rather than to consume. And doing that simultaneously rewards and bolsters us and our communities while punishing the corporations who help to create the environment that now contributes to our suffering by us not purchasing their products. We have to accept that we had a hand in creating that as well, but if we empower ourselves, anything is possible. All the labor and creativity are there waiting to be harnessed. And again, worst case scenario, if factories start shutting down, who says we can't run them ourselves? Obviously there are exceptions, as supply line logistics is a thing as well, and regulations and such. But I'm trying to drive home the point that our ability to produce still exists no matter how messed up our system or currency becomes. These thoughts have been brewing for a while, and I've wanted to get them out into the ether. I'm actually rather excited because basically what I'm describing in many ways is getting back to a sense of community where we provide for and support each other. We've been siloed by corporations and the government who want us all isolated so they can profit from us. For example, if we did more co-oping, like had 1 or 2 lawnmowers for every city block that we shared, they couldn't sell a lawnmower for every household, now could they? That would absolutely devastate their profits, but it would be great for us, wouldn't it? See, their goals are rarely in our best interest. Also, they have no incentive to sell things that last because they won't sell as many units. That's terrible for the environment and our finances, but boy is it great for their profits. The reason I'm excited is I'm starting to hear other people voicing the same sentiment all of a sudden, almost as if there's a paradigm shift happening right now. I'm hearing a lot of content creators talking about parallel systems, which describes what I'm talking about. That basically when the government and corporate system starts failing, rather than try to fix the pathetic system that is there to exploit us, we cut our losses and start systems that do work in parallel until ultimately we don't need the broken system anymore. This way we don't end up with some asshole pulling the rug out from under us in a political move because a system that some are relying on, however shitty, was undesirable. I believe this is going to take a ground-up paradigm shift to make these systems irrelevant, because we are going to have to start doing on a local level what our damn government is supposed to be doing, but isn't. What is exciting is I've actually recently seen individuals discussing taking actual steps to create these communities that embody these parallel systems. Who knows, if some of them work well enough, the government may adopt the practices, and this could be a way to kind of patch our existing system if it merges with the new one. Kind of like sistering floor joists when existing ones are sagging or rotting. The shitty one's still there, but now the new ones are getting the job done as if the shitty one isn't there. But it's even stronger because they're supporting each other. Maybe we just need to remind the government how community works, and that if they aren't going to provide that, then they will become irrelevant. I like to use the example of the Seattle General Strike of 1919. Imagine a whole city going on strike, but they coordinated to keep emergency services operating, supply lines, provide food and care for everyone since the government was essentially shut down due to the strike. This is exactly what they did. They had healthcare, food, childcare, and a whole elaborate system set up to deal with the gap in services. They even had a war veterans guard keeping the peace, without weapons, by the way. Crime decreased during the strike. It ended up running so smoothly that the government felt threatened by it. Eventually, pressure from union leaders, a growing police and military presence, and the difficulty of living in a city that was shut down resulted in the end of the strike. But the success of this 5-day strike is an example of how the people provide the value, not the damn fiat currency. Of course, those in power aren't exactly excited by the idea that at any moment the people could possibly make all their power and wealth irrelevant. And that is why they need us at each other's throat. They did the same thing early on in our country's history with the slaves and indentured servants. They were concerned that the slaves and servants who outnumbered the elites would work together and lynch them, or at least seize power. So what did they do? They gave the servants slightly better benefits than the slaves. This created envy and discontent between the two groups, and led the one to believe they were a separate class. This worked brilliantly to keep them from considering each other as peers or brethren and working together. It also works great to distract you from who your real oppressor is when there is a placeholder. The same thing happens now across ideological lines and any other line they can find. They've got left versus right, trans versus cis, homosexual versus straight, men versus women, and of course race. Guys, we need to be smarter than the propaganda. To identify your enemy, you need only look up, not over at your neighbor. I do want to add a caveat here, however. I don't believe that everyone of a higher means is automatically evil or oppressing you. We have to be careful because people do tend to fall into that trap. It would be unhealthy to foster general, indiscriminate hatred of anyone of means. However, those who are oppressing you are of very extreme, unnecessarily high means, and they use that power to that end. I bring up the parallel systems in conjunction with the strike, not because such a strike is sustainable, but it is an example of our ability, when we work together, to maintain systems and better our lives. Outside of the suffocating oppression and regulation that we often face when dealing with established crime syndication, I mean government, I would like to add one more glimmer of hope, if I may. With automation coming online, there are many claims of abundance it will bring to quell people's fears of jobless, destitute society that lacks the necessary jobs to provide a living. But even if the powers that be do choose to support the populace with their abundance, there is bound to be a gap due to resistance to things like UBI unless they are absolutely necessary, and to be honest, rightfully so. I mean, a government that pays people not to work on a large scale when the work is needed is a recipe for disaster. So the timing is tricky even if intentions are good. But AI and automation will take jobs before the safety net exists for many who will need it. This is why I propose, as is my plan, that those of us with the means to purchase capable robots and automated systems seek to put them to use meeting basic needs as soon as possible, the primary one being food production. Right now, the majority of our food comes from unsustainable factory farms that are destroying our aquatic wildlife and contributing to global warming, and monocropping, which is depleting our soil and also destroying our waterways. Because of how we grow most of our food, the nutrients in our vegetables are just decreasing over time, not to mention the toxicity of pesticides and the genetic modification of the plants to withstand it. On top of this, our food is shipped from all around the world, meaning much of it needs to be picked before ripe and must ripen on the way or in stores, further degrading nutritional value. because both these factors, picking early and storage, reduce available nutrients in the fruits and vegetables. We absolutely need to switch to other systems besides monocropping. This is already true. Systems such as permaculture. You see, topsoil has natural layers that should not be disturbed in the interest of optimal plant growth. However, monocropping tills the soil, mixing them all up, then uses fertilizers rather than the soil's own natural system to feed the plants. Permaculture, on the other hand, is an attempt to simulate as much as possible nature's natural growing conditions and habitat for the plants, and also engineer symbiotic relationships between different crops in the same area to benefit each other. This means no-till farming, where these layers are preserved. Compost layers are created and used to feed and maintain the soil and help prevent weeds, and a variety of plants and trees are grown together in ways that benefit each other. It is basically engineering nature and working with it rather than strong-arming it to heed our unnatural demands. However, this often entails uneven terrain that traps water naturally in swales, and of course the presence of trees, and due to this method of farming can be rather labor-intensive when planting, harvesting, trimming, and weeding, because you can't just gather everything with one machine. Unfortunately, this can mean that this type of system can be rather expensive or result in the use of cheap labor, or worse, which naturally is unacceptable. There are many who are running operations like this successfully, but scaling it up can be challenging. This is where automation comes in. In permaculture, different plants are used for various tasks, such as nutrient miners, pest repellers, pollinators, attractors, nitrogen fixers, and all manner of roles. It is almost like a strategy game, choosing units that complement others and can protect and defend against threats. It's a very interesting and enjoyable endeavor, in my opinion. I have been working on permaculture gardening off and on, and what has become my workflow, rather than keep a huge cross-reference of different plants that serve different roles, sometimes which overlap, which can be very time-consuming and confusing, instead, I use AI to tell me what roles the plants I have readily available at local stores and already growing in my yard serve, and use them accordingly. This usually entails me using an identifying app for weeds, like Flora Incognita, then asking AI what roles they serve. I will also go to the store and prompt AI to tell me permaculture roles of the names I mentioned, then I go through the flowers and plants at the local hardware store and read the names off. This has proven to be very efficient versus trying to find others that may not be available, based on my own database. Now, imagine if rather than even doing this, I had a robot with these apps and capabilities set up. This could be a quadruped, like a dog with an arm, which already exists, or a humanoid when they become available. And they can automatically find beneficial plants, order them, plan their locations, and plant them for me, as well as weed and harvest. They could even make suggestions and come up with plans for efficient systems. The productivity and possibilities with these systems is astronomical. Imagine having 24/7 labor that not only tend the garden, but can also scare off pests, and can manually weed so there's little or no need for herbicides. They could even manually spray individual plants with natural pesticides so that the toxic ones don't have to be used. The utopia version of the world would have everyone living in a self-sustaining home, solar-powered, filtered rainwater, and their own robot or two tending a permaculture garden. The robustness of this system would be revolutionary, and it doesn't seem that far-fetched. When you consider that a quadruped robot can be purchased for around $2,000, and even the humanoid ones are expected to be around $20,000, so like the price of a car. This is why I'm excited for the future, because this seems very attainable to me, in spite of many in power who it seems would not want this to come to pass. Imagine fresh food from your own backyard, little or no pesticides or fertilizers, and nutrients restored to pre-industrial levels. I believe this future is within our grasp, and honestly right now we are simply going through the death throes of an old system. This is the Star Trek future where we can focus on creating beauty rather than pragmatic, cold industrial architecture, where our time can be free to create an environment and architecture worthy of the ancient Roman Empire or the Renaissance, rather than in soul-crushing monotony in cubicles. I believe we are potentially on the cusp of a new renaissance, but only if we can envision it, only if we create it. No one is going to create it for us. If we leave our future to be designed by those in power, they will do it in a way that benefits them and maintains their power. Do you think that's likely to provide us with sovereignty and autonomy? Yeah, I didn't think so. Especially when they seem to rather enjoy abusing us for their own sick satisfaction. I want to challenge everyone to work towards this end. Don't wait for someone to create it for you. What apps can contribute? What hardware? How can we create the systems most efficiently for production or even on a large scale in our communities? Are you willing to create a community dedicated toward a bright future for humanity? We need a unified vision of the future, not one based on mindless submission to oppression, but on individual sovereignty, an optimistic hope, creativity, and a passion for engineering that works with nature, combining our amazing technological advances with nature's wisdom, resilience, and awesome power. Right now, we focus so much on what we fear and what we want to avoid. Avoidance or fear-based motivation has little guarantee to helping us reach our goals because only avoiding what we fear can send us in any direction. But if we have a goal and use that as our motivation, while we may need to deviate slightly, we can still make sure we are headed on the right trajectory. Just think of it as a series of vectors. A football game, combat, or whatever analogy makes it click for you. If you only run from your detractors with no goal, there's no guarantee you will even head in the right direction. Jacques Fresco had a vision, the Venus Project, that functioned using automation for abundance for a moneyless society. But what if rather than, say, us all moving to a Venus Society city, we work towards creating it right at home all over the world? If we create one shining city, they can stomp it out. But can they stomp out billions of lights? If we create this, and it is even a partial success, it will do nothing but make us stronger and more resilient. So what do we have to lose? Many of the oligarchs, it sounds like, don't even want humans to exist. I say we show them we're not willing to go out that easily, and simultaneously make a case for how great humanity can be. Anyway, that's all for this video. This was a bit of a rant, but we need to start getting this stuff out, even if it isn't the most polished. We need rational voices and benevolent leadership that can be trusted in a world more and more full of synthetic, manufactured positions and advertisement. We need those that have a stake in our best interest, where we aren't just a means to an end, and this has proven time and time again not to come from the top. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. I have much more on creative ways to improve our lives planned that I want to share with you. If you would like more people to think like this, or feel you just need some encouragement or guidance, please consider liking, subscribing, activating the bell for notifications, and please share this video to help me reach more people. All these things help the algorithm, which of course means more people will receive my message, and together, maybe we can build a better world. No one else is going to do it. It's up to us. Till next time, peace.